Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
2022. Happy New Year, Glenn.
Hey, Happy New Year, Mikey.
2022. You know, I'll be writing 2021 on stuff for
4 months.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
That's awesome,
so
man.
I get caught up.
That's awesome. Well, I hope you had a good holiday. The stories I heard absolutely did. And I certainly had a good time.
Yeah, it was good stuff. And now we flip the year. Episode 1 of 2022.
You know what the best tool I used during the holiday was?
What's that?
Setting realistic or lower expectations.
It's hard to disappoint.
When I went into situations, I would just lower my expectations to almost zero and just enjoy. And it's amazing how great that worked.
Take that into 2022 and make that a
that's not really a
building block.
That's not really a holiday tactic. That is really a good year-round tactic.
Right.
I'm during holiday sessions and family gatherings and things. Expectations can really send people out of whack.
Right.
So that was my my winning tool.
Love it.
And a good tool for 2022.
Right. So we got a fresh piece of paper in front of us. We've got a whole year. 2021's behind us. We've got a fresh sheet of paper. We're about to embark on a whole new calendar year. I kind of like this time of year because it kind of like it's like, all right, I get a redo. I get a redo, or I like how you say it when your computer all clogs up on you. How do you say that?
Reboot. Right. So it's so funny. Well, let's before we dig into Reboot. Being in business, right? Mm-hmm. You do all the next year plans, right? Sure. I don't know how much money is spent flying people around and all the programs and consultants and doing these 1 year plans, 3, 5 year plans, 10-year plans, and then COVID comes around, right? So as I'm looking at 2022 and planning and launching 2022, I just think of COVID, and there's things that happen in life that throw plans right out of the window. So I love about AA and our new way of living. We focus on today.
That's right.
It doesn't mean we don't have plans, right?
No, you got to have plans.
But hey, let's focus on today and make today a priority. But yeah, focus on Reboot. I got to tell you this story. So, I am in business, and my setup in my office is I've got a MacBook Pro, and then I've got 2 monitors out here, and I work on all 3 screens at once. And I got my left side going, and I got sometimes YouTube playing on that. I got Winter Park, the live cam, so I can watch it snowing in real time. And on this one, I got all my emails and CRM systems, and I got all my spreadsheets, and I got my mail and my messages, blah, right? So I've noticed lately that everything was running really slow, and I was getting that stupid, swirling beach ball. I'm not a tech guy. You are.
Swirling beach ball.
The swirling beach ball, where my Mac is just clocking, And in my mind, I'm thinking, hey, I spent a ton of money on this computer. This thing should fly, right? And so I pull up the activity monitor, and I'm amazed at all the crap that is going on in the background. Now, I've got everything pulled up: Excel, Word, PowerPoint. I've got all these programs, WhatsApp, Zoom. I got all these programs. So, what I did was I consciously went through and I closed down everything I wasn't using, and then I cleaned out all the useless files. I think they call it a cache. I'm not even sure if I know how to spell it, CHCHE or something like that. But I cleaned all that stuff out, right? And I went from 100% usage down to 20% usage.
What a metaphor for life.
It's unbelievable. And then all of a sudden, guess what? My MacBook Pro is flying. Yeah. It is processing stuff and boom, boom, boom. And I had all this stuff up, that was just cluttering everything up, right? And it really made me think, as we were chatting, as we were sitting down, it made me think of, our lives, right? And especially coming into 2022, a lot of people have those, what's the word for it? Their newfound commitments.
Yeah, resolutions.
Resolutions, right. I have no resolutions. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. But, but I'm reminded here in 2022 that, hey, maybe there's some cleaning out that I need to do in my own life so that I perform better, right? So I thought we'd just chat about it for a little bit.
Right.
And, we don't have anything scripted out. This is off the cuff. And
I love it. I like the way you're starting out, because you can't, to reorganize a room, the first thing you need to do is get rid of the unnecessary, right? And reorganize, right? So you've got a process of getting rid of what you don't want. So let's use a house, right? So I got a closet, and I got to do is take inventory. I got to dump everything out of there and figure out what I got. What do I need? Do I need that one boot? No, I don't need that one boot. I don't know where the other boot is.
Right.
I don't know when I lost that boot. Who does that? But so that's number one. Then you need to organize what you do have, and then you need to have a concentrated effort to put it back in a place that's going to be more functional for you.
Right. So what I have learned, and through sobriety and just through living, through filling the hole in my soul differently, there was one time I had a closet in my house that had 250 Ralph Lauren dress shirts. Right? Mm-hmm. So what I've learned today, I have probably 5. Mm-hmm. So what I have learned is less is more, right? The less stuff I have, I don't need 250 dress shirts.
Right.
That was an exercise I used to fill a hole in my soul in that minute, right? Mm-hmm. I don't need that.
Right.
So less is more, and even now, right, I have a little section of the closet now that my wife has designated me and allowed me to use. And she's still, hey, you should go through your stuff. You got stuff that you don't wear.
Right.
So I'm not in a clothing collection contest, right? So I'm going to go through and I'm going to get rid of probably a third of that stuff because I don't wear it.
So given our coffees are about sobriety, what's the analogy there? The analogy there is that if we have this stuff going on, and if we don't have an organized head, right, space, if our head space isn't organized, then we're in danger of living like we were living. Am I catching it?
Yeah, no, I really think you are, and I think a bottom line for that is, a clean physical house,
yes.
Less clutter, less is more, fuels peace.
Okay, got it. There was that general, you probably have heard this, he gave the famous commencement speech. I think it might have been either at Penn State or Notre Dame, right? But do you remember what he said? And I should really, when I quote these people, I should really be able to quote who it was. But he was a famous general.
It's only details.
Yeah, right, it's all in the detail. So, but he said, make your bed. Start your day by making your bed. And
I think that was Texas A&M.
Was it?
I think
okay,
so.
Very good.
But I've heard that, and I think it's start with a simple thing,
yeah.
Right? And I watched the show Hoarders, and you sit there and say, man, how could somebody live in that, right?
Right.
But if my house was cluttered, and it was, my storage unit was cluttered, that's a version of that. It's a smaller version of that, and I can be proud. I'm like, well, at least I'm not on TV, but yet it's not serving me. It's not doing me any good. Okay. Next thing I think. May get touchy, but I think there's, when we talk about, rebooting or getting rid of stuff, right, that we don't need, I think of people. So as we've talked about, I've got that Ferris wheel, that's really cool, sexy gold with the big gold cars. I think it matters who's in those cars with us as we go around the Ferris wheel of life. And I think part of that is, are there people in that Ferris wheel car? Are there people in our lives that should go, that we would benefit from them not being in our lives?
That's you're right. It is tough because sometimes they have your same last name. Sometimes they
I love it how you put it that way.
Right. and it is touchy. But going back to your January 6th, for me anyway, sobriety is the most important thing. Does that mean that I'm going to quickly discount somebody in my family or my friends? I may have to take that turn. I may have to take that turn. It doesn't mean that I don't show up at Christmas. It just means that I show up at Christmas, but I don't let them own space in my brain.
Yeah, and it's really, from my direct experience, I had a relationship that was roughly, 8 years, and she was not good for my sobriety. She wasn't. She used to mock my alcoholism. She would mock people in AA. She would mock the fact I had to go to meetings. She would put up roadblocks so I couldn't go to meetings. I eventually worked with my sponsor. I think it's good not just to make all these moves yourself, but work with the sponsor, especially with family members. But, hey, she had to go, and it was a tough 5 months. I read this book by Dr. Henry Cloud, Never Go Back, because I tried to get out before and I kept going back, and I read this book and I'm like, okay, I'm going to believe you. It was a rough 5 months. Full transparency, it was a rough 5 months. But that book told me I would come out better than I ever was.
And did you?
Oh, he said 6 months. I actually came out at 5 months better.
Overachiever.
Yeah, I mean, it was so worth it, but such a brain marker that, sometimes people have to go. And I think along with that is you want to bring in people that you're going to learn from, that are going to challenge you, that are going to grow with you and help you grow, that you're going to benefit from, not pull you down.
Yeah, I think that's you use the word growth a couple of times. I think that is so important. What I did pre-sobriety was stagnate. What I've come to appreciate is a real focus on growth, mentally, physically, spiritually. There is so much opportunity for growth. And all I need to do is take baby steps every day of growth in those three important areas of my life, and it has made the world a difference to me. I think looking at 2022 and looking at my commitment to growth, it needs to stay consistent with what I did in 2021, because what happened in 2021 worked for me. So there are certain things, like you said, that are broken in our, that's what I'm hearing you say today. Certain things that are broken we need to clean up. Other things were good and were fixed in 2021. So keep doing those things.
Right. So let's go back to my computer story.
Yeah.
Right. As I looked through my activity monitor that came up on the screen, it showed me everything that was running. There were certainly a lot of things I'm like, nope, don't need that, out. But I also identified some things on that list that were critical to my computer running correctly. And so I loved how you put it. It's not just get rid of stuff, but it's being aware of, no, this feeds my sobriety. This feeds my promises coming true. This feeds my peace. I'm going to keep this.
Yep.
And make sure there's plenty of room in my computer for that to run at its best.
I love it.
All right, next thing is projects.
Okay.
Right? In sobriety, because I know your calendar and my calendar, it used to be filled with drinking. A lot of time slots were filled with drinking. So you eliminate the drinking, now you got a lot of time slots, right? So we take on projects. And I think I've done a good job lately. First I was a yes man. Glenn, can you do this? Yes. Glenn, will you do this? Yes. Glenn, will you do that? Yes. And I became overloaded, right? So I think it's again, thinking of less is more, right? I think, am I doing the right projects that are serving my purpose, that are serving God's will for my life? Am I focused on those projects, or do I have stuff going on that is probably overloading me and it's pulling away from the power, again, using the computer, using the energy, using the CPU, using the memory usage, because that's all I was focused on yesterday. Are there things that I'm doing that's pulling away from the power where the rest of my life isn't running effectively?
Can I tell you a little tool that I use? And I just started doing this last year, and this may be over the top, But on my Google Calendar, of course, I go into any given Tuesday with a plan, right? And on my Google Calendar, I have colored designations. So I've got purple for spiritual, I've got yellow for recovery, I've got green for family, and I've got blue for work. And as things come into my calendar, dinner with the wife, that's green. That's at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. So as I'm planning my days, I kind of see the color scheme. The important thing I do is I run a concurrent calendar to that tells me what I actually did that day, because I might have scheduled to do a meeting at 7 o'clock in the morning, but instead work came up, so that yellow turned to blue. And if I see too much blue, or if I don't see enough yellow, that's really a danger point for me. I know that sounds over the top. It's really easy to do, though. It just, as I'm moving along my day, I just double click and just say, work. I worked instead of go. So anyway.
Yeah, so I think that is, I really love that. I've actually tried that before, and it, I don't know, it just became just a man. I try to do it all in my head. But here's what it says to me. Well, first of all, I'm wondering if you could add up those time slots, like using technology. Add up those time slots for a week.
It's a great app idea.
Yeah, and say, hey, right. I spent exactly.
Right.
I spent.
How does my pie chart look?
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, I have 8 slices in my pie.
Yeah, right.
How balanced was I this week?
Right.
And maybe overlay it from week to week and say, hey, in general, over a month, because sometimes things get out of whack.
Sure,
right?
Absolutely.
But hey, over a month, I'm pretty darn balanced, or I'm meeting, my blend of what I think a good life should be.
Yeah.
But what it really reminds me of, and I think of this during my day, is my day running me, or am I running my day? And I just think from a business efficiency level, I was always paid attention to that. But now I think of it from a peace perspective. I think of it from just the balance perspective, right? Who's running who? And I'm assertive enough, and I really like the whole project, being overloaded. I don't have to say yes to everybody, and I'm worried about that balance. I'm focused on the balance. I shouldn't use the word worry, but I'm focused on the balance, right? And what I've learned with projects, and it's okay to say no. No's a full sentence, right? And I'm asked to do a lot from all different sources, and I prioritize it. And I said, if I do that, this is going to get too thin.
That's right.
Right. So, it's just, projects, are you overloading projects? Should you pull back, so you can use the energy and resources on your primary purpose and what you're really focused on?
Love it. All
right. Next one is me time. So the first thing I would suggest is going to a spa in Arizona for 2 weeks, where they feed you and massage you, and you get the pool time, and you get, solitude and yoga, and you get all that fun stuff.
Excellent idea. What if that's not in the budget?
Yeah. So it's not in most people's budgets, including mine. But I think it is very important, and in 2022, I'm going to be more purposeful for this, is take time for me. I'm doing a deal with a guy, and it was a really critical part of the deal. And he says, Glenn, I'll catch you in a week. I'm like, what do you mean catch me in a week? Let's get going, man. We got stuff in motion. He's like, no. He goes, I've been burning the candle at both ends. I am going to totally unplug for a week, and I'll catch you in 8 days. And first I was bent, right? Because I got my expectations. I got my selfishness, but then I really respected that. And then I went from respect to noticing, hey, I need that, right? To unplug. And it's funny, the first word when unplug, I think of solitude, right? But solitude is different from the isolation that I used to live in and you used to live in when we were drinking, right? Because I know your story. We used to isolate by ourselves. We purposefully kept everybody out because we didn't want anybody to see how bad we were, what we were doing. We were trying to hide everything. We're just trying to keep the wheels in the cart, right? Mm-hmm. But solitude, I think, is we don't have Webster's definition, but I think it's purposefully taking time alone, quiet down all the noise. There's so much noise out there on social media and news and just activities, and so much going on, that it's good to unplug, just be quiet in solitude, and then I think, take me time. I come back to that word growth, I'm like, hey, what can I read to learn something to help me grow? What can I listen to, right? What can I watch? What can I learn? Something new. So I'm always looking to grow. And a lot of times the hustle and bustle of day to day, I don't have a lot of that time.
Right.
Do you?
No, but you gotta make it. It's funny. Last week, I had back-to-back days that were extremely stressful. I mean, it was just situational stress, right?
Yep.
At work, but then I have to segue from work into being productive at home. We've got this event, that this project going on, and that unplugging for a purposeful amount of time. And for me, it was just listening to some good music, just letting myself just be by myself and listening to good music. Might not be what the doctor ordered for everybody, but it sure worked for me. But I needed to do that until I felt better. It's my body. My check engine light was on. Let's put it that way. It was on. It was blinking, and I had to pay attention to it, because if I don't pay attention to it, that's what I didn't do for 50 plus years out there. I didn't pay attention to my check engine light.
So I have to be full transparency, right? So I kind of have ADHD at the time, or there's many times I'm doing more than one thing. So as Mikey's listening, I'm taking notes, and I just pull up the first email is from a location called Me Spa.
Oh, is that right?
MESPA.
Yeah.
And it says, book your time now. How appropriate is that? Is that a message from God saying I should book my spa appointment or what?
Oh, I love it.
Who knows, right? But I think, just kind of wrapping up here, I think, fresh beginnings, right? What we like to do in sobriety is start every day with a fresh beginning, So maybe 2022, starting January 1st, maybe that particular date and time isn't as impactful, right? What they say most of the time with people's resolutions, that they're usually done by January 8th or whatever, right? So one of the things I like is that we're able to start every single day as a new day.
I'm going to trump you.
Oh, trump me, man. I love Trump.
I could start every day at 108. At 108, I can restart my day.
So what you're saying, wait. So to understand, you're saying I can restart my day.
You can reboot
at any time. Reboot.
Yep. It does.
So at any time, if I'm feeling overloaded, if my system's running slow, I can go in and do a pulse check.
And if you need to, do a total reboot.
Do a personal activity monitor.
That's right.
And say what's causing this. That's right. To run slow.
That's right.
Man, I love that. Yeah. So it gives us an opportunity, man. That's something to really take home. Thank you for that. But no, it gives us a chance for a fresh look at 2022. Really appreciate going through the holidays with you. And thank you to all our listeners. Looking forward to a great 2022, right?
Reach out if we can help, man. Reach out.
Podcast at Sober.Coffee.
Love you, man.
Looking forward to a great year. Thanks, Mikey.
Right.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@sober.coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.